Welcome back to The Agent of Wealth. This is your host, Marc Bautis. Today we're exploring a topic that affects everyone, whether you realize it or not, your legal wellness. Understanding the law isn't just for lawyers. It's for anyone who wants to protect themselves and make smart decisions and avoid costly mistakes in everyday life. Joining me today is Danny Karon, also known as your Lovable Lawyer. Danny is a seasoned class action attorney, law professor, legal wellness advocate, and author who has spent 30 years making complex legal issues relatable, practical, and even fun. He's chaired the ABA's National Institute on Class Actions, writes for Law 360, and runs a YouTube channel translating everything from real estate closings to jaywalking laws into everyday wisdom. Danny, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I'm excited to talk about today's topic. You coined the term legal wellness. What exactly does that mean, and why should the average person care about their legal health?
Well, the law is all around us. It affects everything we do, yet too few people appreciate its consequences. So we don't have this ownership of the process. We don't understand what's happening. We don't know that we can do anything or have a stake in things or a possibility of redress or really any opportunity to help ourselves when the deck's stacked against us. Instead, we have this victim mentality, and it's just really debilitating because the law is scary. It's unattainable. It's inaccessible. Lawyers are tough to find, pay for, and understand. My God, we have our own language for crying out loud. Legalese, you can't make heads or tails of that. So I wanted to take all those concerns and boil them down into something understandable and approachable and easy to digest for folks, because we really do need to take care of and pay mind to our legal wellness the same way that we take care of and pay mind to our physical wellness, our emotional wellness, our financial wellness. But this wellness bucket, which when it tips, it flows into the others because you freak out, you go broke, and it really hurts you, nobody pays mind to, because the lawyers don't want you to have these secrets. I want people to have them.
Do you think the industry does that on purpose? Because I'm familiar with the financial industry, and I think the industry kind of makes things come way more complex than they need to, opaque and tough to find information out, just so that you're relying on people in the financial industry sometimes. Do you think the legal industry is similar in that aspect?
I think it's on purpose in the sense that lawyers want to keep a bear hug on this sort of content and the sort of ability to help people. I don't think they want to hurt people. I think they want to help themselves. And I think giving people the legal empowerment they need to have really a DIY, really do-it-yourself law degree, because a lot of this stuff is actually doable by yourself if that is, you know what to do and can identify the issues that require resolution and attention. I think that's what's necessary and important. I don't think the lawyers want you to have it. It keeps the lawyers in business. But I think it's not fair to keep people kind of on their heels when they really, really need help almost every day in any type of situation. And when you think about it, a lot of times lawyers, aren't going to be there to help you at all. Let's say you have an insurance issue where you need insurance coverage. A lawyer can't get paid a contingency fee or 1/3 of provide coverage. Or if you're going to hire somebody by the hour, you can't pay even a well-priced lawyer $250 or $300 an hour to help you out because you're upside down in 10 minutes. So you really need some legal aptitude of your own to take matters into your own hands a lot of the time.
How would you recommend someone approach it? Do you, basically improving their own legal wellness? Does it make sense for them to kind of do like a checkup where they look at all aspects, all legal aspects of themselves? Or is this something more you recommend that, okay, if a particular situation occurs, then figure out kind of how you can handle that one particular situation, or kind of look at it holistically?
Well, you can be proactive or reactive. If you want to be reactive, you wait for something to happen, for disaster to strike, and hope you can get yourself out of it. And if you can't, you have to find and pay for a lawyer. And if you can't do that, then you're really in trouble. Or like you're suggesting, you can be proactive and kind of take stock of yourself. So the tools that I try to describe and relate to people on my website, in my new book, which we'll talk about, are really for the purpose of getting you ahead of this wellness curve so that you can take wellness into your own hands ahead of time and avoid the problems that would befall folks who kind of turn a blind eye or really ignore things. And it's kind of like, to my mind, if you go to the doctor for a physical, it's to keep from getting physically sick. My content is for the purpose of giving you a legal physical to keep you from getting legally sick. And that's what I want people to have in mind, is that they can take matters into their own hands beforehand and avoid pitfalls that typically befall other folks who don't pay mind to their legal wellness.
The same way you can do it, like a financial checkup, or even like you said, a physical checkup.
Mhm.
What would the approach be in terms of doing a legal checkup? Is it kind of just a list of these are all the legal areas you should really take a pulse of and see how you're doing in it? Is it a practical approach like that?
Well, it was that thought that really controlled my thinking when I put together my first book, which is being released on October 21st, 25. It's Your Lovable Lawyer's Guide to Legal Wellness, Fighting Back Against a World That's Out to Cheat You. And I tried to identify the evergreen or enduring topics that I thought affected people all the time that they want to get a jump on so as to stay out of trouble in the first place. A common one would be what to do in an auto accident. You can get into a real pinch. I mean, never mind the accident itself. It gets even worse afterward if you don't know what to do. Now, legal wellness might not keep you from getting hit, but it'll keep you from suffering real adverse consequences, we hope, after you've been hit or hit somebody else. How about what not to say online? Defamation, doxing, invasion of privacy, all these online indiscretions that people get into, figuring, oh, you know what? I can say whatever I want. It's online. It's from the privacy of my basement. Who cares? Not so fast. Amber Heard would have benefited from a dose of legal wellness. She would have known what not to say online when she posted that op-ed with the Washington Post, because that case, by the way, was a defamation case. It wasn't a sexual abuse case. And had she known this much about the elements of defamation under Virginia defamation law, which is where the case was tried, she would have known what not to say, would have been up $1 million, which she paid in settlement, and anywhere from, they estimate, $9 to $15 million in attorney's fees she paid these folks for losing her case. People think they can pop off all the time. Not so fast. How about a third one? Wills and trusts. Why you need them. Why they're helpful, not so much to you, but to the folks you leave behind. I've been through it. Every example in the book is drawn from real life. All the letters are real letters. I disguise the names to protect the guilty, but I don't make any of this stuff up because you can't make this stuff up. It happens to all of us, and we need to be ahead of the wellness curve to keep it from happening in as bad a way as it could, and it needn't.
You mentioned Amber Heard and Virginia. How different are the legal laws between states? And I know it probably depends. The answer is it depends on what one we're talking about. But are there a lot? Are there like whether it's defamation? Is it really different between Virginia and New York, or Virginia and this state? And how does someone kind of figure out, oh yeah, this is particular to my state that I have to be aware of?
Oh, there are differences. I mean, they're generally the same, like negligence or the law involving or affect the law applying to careless behavior is generally the same everywhere: duty, breach, causation, and damages. But there might be differences in terms of contributory negligence and how much there has to be to shift the. You have to take a look, and that bleeds into your question. How do you know, or how do you learn what the law on, say, defamation is in your state? Get online and Google it. I mean, that is totally accessible now. Legal research is not reserved exclusively for the lawyers anymore. Maybe super high level, deep, dense legal research might be through legal databases like Lexis and Westlaw, but you can AI, what are the elements, it's called, of defamation under Virginia law, and you'll pull them right up. There are 8 of them, if I remember, and you'll see what not to say. Or you'll see whether what somebody said about you is actionable so you can fashion a claim against them. It works both ways.
Yeah. What's the first step for someone to get their legal life in order? Now, and obviously, in addition to getting your book, but what would be the first practical step someone would take? What is there a particular area that they should analyze, or a particular thing, or kind of, how do they approach getting started? Because I find in basically anything, getting started is always the hardest thing to do. It's when you really take that first step. How does someone do that in their legal life?
Well, I try to make it easy through the book. I try to identify the big issues, what you really want to have under control so as to live a more comfortable and confident life. And I think a big one is what to do in an auto accident, because they happen all the time. I think another one is, like I described, what to do as it concerns online behavior, whether proactively or reactively. Wills and trusts, because God forbid something should happen, you need to know how the folks you leave behind are going to manage. I'm doing keynote speaking, keyed off the book. And the 3 tenets of legal wellness that I teach to people, which kind of really go to your question, are 1, how to avoid a victim mentality. It's not okay just to take it and eat it because somebody does something to you. There's a charge in your visa. Your cell phone bill is too high. It happens. here's an example from the book. You get a crown at the dentist, it falls off, and suddenly it's your fault because you don't want to ruffle feathers and say anything to the dentist because they might affect your credit. That's all nonsense. Be proactive, avoid a victim mentality, know that you have a stake and a claim and a voice in the process, especially when you're the victim. That's number one. Number two is read your contracts. I mean, nobody reads anything. It's set up, the system is set up, to keep it all but impossible for you to understand what you're signing, like what with scrolling through the apps and everything, and the click-throughs and the click wraps and the docu-signing. Oh my God, that's totally made to avoid reading stuff. I just did a docu-sign today. And what did I do? I clicked through it. I knew what was in it because I'd done this contract before, but nobody tends to know. They don't want you to know so that when they get you, they can say, hey, listen, you had a chance to look. Read your contract. Often the answer or something helpful is in them. And third, relating back to defamation, this is what my grandma used to always tell me. It was true then, and it's true now. You can't go wrong with your mouth shut. I mean, know what not to say. Know what it's not okay to say, and know that you can't take refuge in the First Amendment just willy nilly. Like, oh, I have a First Amendment to this and to that. We've been hearing that talk all the time of late, and it's not the case. First of all, private institutions like colleges, private ones that is, and workplaces aren't bound by the First Amendment. Besides which, the First Amendment has limitations: obscenity, defamation, fighting words. There are a whole bunch of them. They're all in the book too, by the way. So you cannot just get away with anything and claim, oh, I have a First Amendment right. You actually don't. That's why a restaurant can kick you out or not serve you for no shoes, no shirt, no service. They can make whatever rules they want, so long as they don't discriminate against protected classes, age, sex, gender, and so on. So there's a lot of law blended into everything we do and see and experience every day, but nobody realizes it. And the better equipped you are to handle this stuff and to keep it in mind, even if only to identify issues, the better off you're going to be to respond. And then you stay safe legally.
Going back to something you said on contracts and, those things you scroll through when you're, and I'm guilty of it, and probably a lot of people are, of just not even reading it, just scrolling through, clicking accept. And I guess partly one of the reasons I do that is because I'm figure, okay, they're not going to, even if I disagree with something that's in there, there's no chance of me getting that changed. Is that true? Is there is my option either accept it or go away and go do something else? And I'm just kind of broadly saying these things you sign online, but I guess it could be the same for other contracts as well.
Oh, sure. Your cell phone, your credit card, your ISP, you can't change anything. What you say is absolutely true, which might beg the question, why bother reading it? Well, that's not a good way to approach it. Contracts that you can't change, that are take it or leave a contract, are called adhesion contracts. And what's worse is, if you don't like what cell phone provider one has to say in theirs and you go across the street to the other company, it's got the same thing. The ugliest clause, by the way, is a forced arbitration clause, which says if there's a problem with us, you can't sue us. You forfeit your Seventh Amendment right to a jury trial, got to go to private arbitration. We stack the deck. You're going to lose most of the time the data show, and we get away with it. It's like a get out of jail free card. Everybody has those in every consumer contract you're going to find pretty much out there. There's a chapter in the book on those too. And the reason I highlight that stuff is because, even if you can't change it, it's something worth knowing about. So for instance, I have a chapter on liability waivers, which is the language in a contract that says, if we do something wrong, if we're negligent, you know what? Too bad, pound sand. You don't have a case against us. We're off the hook. Another get out of jail free card. Some states find those more legal and enforceable than others. You have to get into state law to refer back to an earlier question of yours. But there's a case in the book. It's called Corwin versus New York Bike Share, if I remember. I think I'm right, actually. It involved this guy, Corwin, who rented a bike at one of those bike share facilities in Manhattan, took off with the bike, hit a curb, took a header, cracked his skull open, and he was a mess. So what's he do? He sues the bike share company, claiming that the configuration was all botched. There shouldn't have been a curb there. It caused his accident. He wants, payment for his medical bills, pain and suffering, lost wages, all that stuff. Well, guess what? When he signed up on the app, it had a liability waiver in there that said, in cases involving negligence, we're off the hook. Gross negligence, that's a different story. There were no facts there to prove that. Ordinary negligence, not us, too bad. So what could he have done? Nothing. It was found enforceable. He lost. Thing is, though, had he known it was in there, what could he have done in that respect? Well, he could have worn a helmet. He could have realized, hey, listen, if I take a header in the streets of Manhattan, I'm going to be self-pay. So maybe I ought to just get that helmet and put it on after all, because now is a special circumstance. where I know I'm going to be on the hook. See, that's an example of what you can do and changes you can make, even in the face of an adhesion contract whose terms you can't change.
Your book is empowering people to take their own legal, into their own, into their own hands. Are there any instances where it actually makes sense to, or when does it make sense to actually bring an attorney in to help in a particular area, or if something gets to a particular situation?
For instance, if you're in a car accident, that's the best and biggest and most obvious example. You might know what not to say to the other side's insurance adjuster when they call you looking for a statement where they want you to admit that it was your fault for the other guy running the red light. Don't do that. But in terms of pursuing your claim suitably and maximizing your outcome, that's absolutely when you need a lawyer. And I really lean hard into that in the book too, because you just that's something you can't do on your own. Plaintiffs, personal injury lawyers are experts. They have staffs of consultants and experts and medical professionals and nurse paralegals and associates, and they can build your case up the right way, the most productive, effective way to get justice for you. And that's absolutely an example of when you would want to get a lawyer.
You call yourself the Lovable Lawyer. How did that name come about? And how did you also, kind of going back to your background, how did you take that and take this different approach to legal education and outreach?
I wanted a brand that was accessible, that was friendly, because lawyers, listen, I know what people think of lawyers. You think I haven't heard those jokes and remarks for 30 years? I mean, come on. So I wanted to break that mold. What people often say to me is, I didn't know you were a lawyer. You should don't act like one, which I take as a compliment. Now, that said, a lot of my friends are obviously lawyers and they're really great people. But I know how they kind of project and present because we're trained to be persnickety, to spot issues and to question, not to argue, but to question, to solve problems, which means you've got to identify problems, and people don't like that. They want to just kind of move on through life. So lawyers can be tough to be around. I didn't want to be like that. I wanted a brand that was accessible, which is primarily why the color scheme, the graphics, the layout, if you take a look at the book, it really kind of harkens back, I think, to an easier, more gentle time. Kind of, it's got some Partridge Family, Gilligan's Island, Brady Bunch motifs blended in and stuff. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. Now, why I got into this whole, wellness business to begin with. I've been doing consumer legacy for 30 years. It's actually been closer to 35, believe it or not. And I've long concluded that there's what I call a societal bias against access to justice, where people who tend to need it the most tend to get it the least. And I didn't think that was fair. That was fair because normal, regular, everyday folks don't have the tools to identify issues, to know what to do when they spot an issue, to implement that resolution, to find a lawyer, to pay for a lawyer, all that stuff. And I didn't think it was right. That was observation number one. Relatedly, I observed via the daytime call it like TV and internet landscape, that there was an abundance of emotional wellness content out there, like Dr. Phil, Mel Robbins, talking about how to be safe and sound in your mind and body. We've all seen that stuff. There's also a bunch of financial wellness content out there. Jim Cramer, Susie Orman, how to set up a 529 for your kid or a 401k for yourself, tons of that. But where concerns that third essential wellness bucket legal, I just, I didn't see anything because it's so prevalent and it's so connected to the other two. Again, when you have a legal problem, you freak out, emotional problem, you go broke, financial problem, everything's connected. What the lawyers don't want to give away this content for free. They want to keep it to themselves. It keeps them in business. And I wanted to deliver this content directly to the consumer rather than I'll tell you, the only legal content I see out there and kind of in the media tends to be like those trumped up courtroom shows, that are more exploitative than they are preventative, because they descend upon people when after disaster is struck. And I wanted to turn the dial back and engage people before problems beset them, which is kind of like, to my mind, like administering a legal physical. Like you go to the doctor for a physical to keep from getting physically sick. This would be your legal physical, keep from getting legally sick. and it's accessible and doable and attainable. And it's all in my book, and it's all out there for people to appreciate if that is, they know that they need to and should and have to.
I'm getting in my financial practice. I'm getting a lot of. I see people that come in and they'll say, "Oh, I saw this on TikTok or I saw this on an Instagram reel." Financial advice, and sometimes it's decent advice. A lot of times it's not. Is it similar in the legal field? Are people getting, call it, bad advice from different outlets?
Wow. Ethically speaking, I am proscribed from giving advice. If there's not an attorney-client relationship, I necessarily can't give you advice because I don't know what your situation is. So I don't give advice. I give guidance. I give information, really, more than anything. And you do with that what you like. To the extent people give guidance, I think it's reckless and it's wrong, because you can't know what's going to help somebody until, that is, you've talked to them and heard their whole situation. So, people will do it. I've seen plenty of lawyers try to skirt the ethical rules. We have a robust code of ethics we've got to abide by, and I don't do anything without consulting the code to make sure that I'm well within the lines. Let me put it this way. My lawyer said to me, he had a client once who said, "I want a real bastard of a lawyer. I want a real, tiger. I want somebody who's going to take me as close to the line as possible." And my lawyer said to him, "Then I'm not your guy." And the guy said, "Why not?" He said, "Because it's my job to keep you as far away from the line as possible." And that's what I do. I stay as far away from any dangerous lines as I can. I give information that's suitable for folks, if that is, they're interested in hearing it. And to the extent they want advice, that's when you hire a lawyer. I'm not getting hired. I'm just sharing my experiences with people and inviting them to do what they like to make their legal lives better.
Do you see any legal myths that people believe because they saw it on TV or in a movie or somewhere that maybe not true?
Have I seen people
Like, there's some kind of legal myths out there
myth?
a myth, yeah, that someone believed just because they saw it on TV or in
Oh,
a movie.
Sure. I got a few for you. How about you watch Suits?
Yeah.
These guys keep their jackets on all day, every day. I haven't seen a lawyer keep their jacket on in 30 years. How about the fact that on Law and Order, a case can go from murder through investigation, through trial, through appeal in 48 minutes, which is 60 minutes accounting for commercials. That doesn't happen either. So don't believe what you see on TV, because it's usually not true when it comes to the law.
How is artificial intelligence or AI changing the legal field? Is it helping kind of what you're talking about, this empowering of the person, or is it going to create a mess where people now are getting misinformation or they're looking at things and not really sure how to do it?
Well, when you say the legal field, that kind of comes in
broad.
two flavors to
Yeah.
my mind. One is people out there in the world as it concerns the law. I think AI is helping them understand the law a bit better, what the elements of a claim are. And again, I say that a second time. If you want to know whether somebody aggrieved you, did they breach their contract with me? You Google what are the elements of breach of contract, and it'll tell you contract, offer acceptance, consideration, that's for the existence of a contract, and then failure to perform and damages. So, or close to that. And it makes it easy for non-lawyers. But as it concerns lawyers, it can get lawyers into trouble. I mean, lawyers have begun filing legal papers called briefs with the court based on AI, just asking AI to generate a brief for them. And AI makes up, hallucinations just in regular AI parlance. In the context of law practice, it makes up cases and makes up holdings or rulings from cases, puts them in briefs. All the other side needs to do is read look up the case, look up the language in it to see if it's even a real case, that is. And a lot of the times it's not. And lawyers get called out on that. And the law does not like lawyers cheating with AI. And I'll tell you who else doesn't like it is clients. Probably getting charged full fare for lawyer doing half the work. That's not okay
Yeah.
either.
Yeah. All right, Danny, that's all the questions I have for you today. This has been a really great conversation. I want to thank you for helping us make legal issues simple and relatable. For listeners who want to learn more about your book, connect with you, where's the best place to find you online?
Boy, I'm pretty much everywhere. My website is yourlovablelawyer.com. The book is on sale, on across all platforms, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, I think some others too. But Amazon's probably the easiest. So you can just find it there. If you just, in the search bar, key in Your Lovable Lawyer. And it's available for pre-order now. And I hope you enjoy it.
Great. We'll include all those links in the resources section of the show notes.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Danny, and thank you to everyone who tuned in today.
Thanks for having me.